All right, guys, so for the sake of the project here, I'm back on it. I didn't have much luck finding the buyer's boxes I was looking for. Called around, did some searching. The 18 by 18 by 18 box is not a common box that Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Atwoods carries. Luckily, Amazon Prime came in clutch. They can get it to me by Thursday this week, maybe Wednesday. So I can do some work today. What I'm gonna do is build my own box. I was thinking about using steel, but steel's super expensive, and I've got some old scrap plywood laying around here. So I'm just gonna make an 18 by 18 by 18 plywood box, just basically to set up a template, if you will, so I can at least build this bed. Now that's my goal here. I'm trying to just have a template so I can start working on the bed. I just want to start fabricating it up. I'm working with wood here. This is not my forte. I'd much rather would work with steel, but this is a little cheaper and I already have it and it's free. It's laying around. So here we go. I'm gonna cut some wood up and put some wood together. It's kind of weird putting the wood box together, but it's just a template. So here we go, guys. Hey, welcome to the channel. I'm Caleb Morrison. This is Caleb's Diesel and Fabrication. If you like fabricating stuff, if you like working on diesel vehicles, this is a great place to be because we're gonna do it all. Two down, two more to go. All right, guys, so here's what my box looks like that I made. I ain't no carpenter, but I made a weapon. So that's how it's gonna kind of look. I'm trying to get it set up where it's pretty much flush with the outside of the truck, and then that's going to have a door that opens out down where you can get tools and supplies in there and different things. But I think it's going to be a pretty good size. I think it's going to look really good. Obviously it's a buyer's box. It's basically supposed to go under a truck bed, like a flatbed, but I think it'll work good for this purpose too. Now I just got to figure out when the tire's coming up, if it's going to clear. I think I can move the axle back a little bit with my 4-link setup so I can get a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to interfere at all with the tire coming up and down. So you see, I'm still going to have quite a bit of room behind it for my fuel cell and different things. I think it's just kind of making it all fits, kind of like a Jenga puzzle. But now I got to work on putting the headache rack and somehow tying it into the cage. So I got to decide if I'm just going to come up here and come out to the outside and around, because I really don't, honestly, I don't want to have to put the headache rack down on top of the toolbox, because that's literally how wide it's going to be. But I could recess it a little bit in with the box, go inside and to get to the outside, but I don't think I'm going to do that either. I think I'm just going to come up from the frame rail in the back right here and just go straight up and go out and match the profile. I think that'll look just as good, and I think it'll be just as stout. I mean, you can't beat going to the frame anyways, so take up a little bit of room on the frame right there, but it'll be all right. So here we go, a little bit more fabricating. Hey guys, just to give you a little tip here. So I'm working on the headache rack back of the truck. So one thing I was going to say is I'm using square tubing, right? Cut all your small pieces first if you can out of what you have. It just saves on waste. You know, and I actually used a piece that I've had. It's the same thickness that I had sitting underneath my table. It's got a little rust on it, but I can clean it up real quick with a Tiger Paw sanding disc and get it all good and clean. It'll be good to go. This is a piece I had left over as well. Another thing I was going to say is, if you look on your tubing, the factory cut most of the time will be the straightest. and you can see it's painted green, so I know that this was the factory cut. This end has already been cut. It's somewhat straight, but not perfect. So one thing I recommend is if you got this end and it's available and it's the factory cut that's really straight, you don't got to worry about it, go ahead and use that factory cut to measure off of, and then whenever you cut the other end, it's less likely to be off or at an angle. So just a quick tip on square tubing. I'm kind of a square tubing guy. You know, I've had to learn a little bit of the process of working on this round tubing and bending and all that, which I'm getting better, but I'm just going to work with what I know and what I like. So here we go. Alright guys, so I'm getting ready to put my pieces on the back here that I cleaned up to start building my headache rack. Okay, so a couple things I want to go over, and hey guys, I get it, I understand you guys might be welders and you guys might have all of these points that I'm going to make down, but this is for the people that have never done any of this welding, any cutting, preparing steel. I just want to go over a couple things. So anytime you buy steel, raw steel, cold, hot rolled steel, tubing, round stock, bar, plate, it doesn't matter. Whenever it is made in the building process of them melting it or smelting it, it comes with a little bit of a coating or what they call mill scale that's on it. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you can kind of see, this is what they call the mill scale. You can kind of see it has a little bit of a, almost like a pigmentation to it. So when you grind it down, you're going to see this smooth, shiny spot. See this spot right here? That is mill scale. So just a quick tip. So when you're welding, especially MIG welding, in that process, it really is important to get a clean piece of steel with no impurities. It's going to make your welds better. It's going to make it penetrate better, no less popping and having trouble. So whenever you're preparing your steel, make sure, if you got a tiger paw, sanding disc, whatever it is, or grinding disc works great too. Make sure you get the mill scale off if you want the best weld. Now there's guys that'll tell you that you can weld through it, and yeah, they're right, you can definitely weld through the mill scale, but I will tell you straight up, the longer I go in building stuff, the more I figured out, hey, let's go ahead and clean it up and get a good weld, and you don't have to worry about it down the road. It's just cheap insurance. It's just easy to do. It doesn't take that much longer. Now, I'm not gonna lie. You go through a lot of sanding discs. I go through a ton to prepare the steel because I want to have a good weld. Now, if you're welding with the SA200 or even Miller Bobcat, Ranger 8, something like that, you can run 60-13, 60-10, 60-11, and it'll burn through it. You get it hot enough, it's going to burn through it, but still yet, you really need to get the material clean to get a good weld. It's like, I don't even do paint and body work, but I've learned through the small amount that I have done, the more prep work you do is going to benefit you in the long run because it's going to make the paint better. It's going to make putting everything together easier, go smoother. It's all in the prep work. So guys, don't take any shortcuts whenever you're welding this stuff together. I mean, let's just say I roll this truck over. It's probably going to happen. Me making sure these welds are quality, good, 100%. I'm going to make sure that my safety is good because those welds aren't going to break. This material is going to be nice and stout. The more you put on this truck, the better it's going to be. And that brings me to another point. So another thing I've learned, whenever you are welding and building something, I used to have this belief that you just need to use the heaviest grade steel, make it 4 million pounds / heavy as can be, like a tank, which is not a bad way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it. So one thing I've learned, and this especially on this truck, I don't want to make this truck weigh 9,000 pounds. I'm looking for like under 6,000 pounds. So I'm going to use a little bit lighter material, and I'm going to brace it up more and weld and make sure it's a quality weld, quality build. So you guys get what I'm saying. You can use lighter material with bracing, and you don't have to use as a heavy material as long as it's a good weld and it's quality. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, you might do some more bracing, but it's still going to be lighter at the end of the day. Another thing I was going to talk about is when you're preparing your welding machine, just go through and make sure that it's all set up for what you're going to weld. I've always welded hot, so I learned how to weld hot and fast. That's not the only way to do it. I mean, as long as it's set right, you can weld slower and be a little bit cooler on your heat. MIG, stick, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that you are matching with your welding process, you're matching the heat. And like I've said in previous videos, you guys can look back, these things have cheat sheets on them. You open up the door on this Miller welder over here, or even the ESAB, it doesn't matter, it could be a Lincoln. On the MIGs, they make it super easy. They kind of spoon feed it to you. It's going to show you exactly what heat to put it on for the thickness of metal. It's self-explanatory, guys. Like I said, some of you might already know this, but I just want to go over some of the things and the reasons why I do what I do, is some of those basic principles. Make sure you clean your metal, clean your work, clean up where you're going to weld at. Make sure you have a good ground. Even on vehicles, I've noticed that we work on, which I'm kind of getting on a soapbox here, sometimes the issue that we have, if it's electrical in nature, is a ground issue. Over time, grounds work loose. They get corrosion. I don't know, I see it more on Dodge vehicles because I feel like their wiring is subpar in a few ways, especially the old 24 valve trucks. We have a lot of those come in, and it ends up being a battery cable, ends up being a negative cable for the system. The ECM does all kinds of crazy stuff, throws a million codes, and it's because of a ground. You'll be amazed how many trucks that people bring us, and they're like, oh, I've replaced the batteries, I've replaced the ends of the battery cables, I've done all this stuff, and it comes down to a bad ground. And when you call them and tell them that it was like a $5 fix, they're just obviously relieved, but a lot of people are pissed because they spent thousands of dollars on trying to figure out an electrical problem that was a bad ground. So same thing on welding. Whenever you are going to weld on something and you know that it needs to be a stout weld and it needs to get a good tack on it, or a good weld, just go ahead and clean up the spot where you're going to put your ground at, and make sure that it's tight, and make sure it's getting a good ground. That's 101 here, guys. I'm just going over a few things. It doesn't matter if it's MIG, it doesn't matter if it's arc welding, it doesn't matter. Make sure you have a good ground. It's going to make your welds better. It's going to make it easier on you. Just trust me, it's going to make it easy overall. So a couple of quick tips. I'm going to work on getting these welded in. I'm going to clean up my spots where I'm going to weld it. I'm going to make sure I got a good ground, and I'm going to take my own advice. So here we go. All right, I got my angles cut. I'm checking my angles with my angle finder. Got this on Amazon. It's like 10 bucks. So you'll see, it's gonna be pretty nice. We're starting out making sure it's all square and level before we weld it all up. Alright guys, so at this point, I ended up getting the headache rack pretty much where I want it to be. I think on some of these projects, you just have to kind of stand back and look at it and see what looks right, what doesn't look right. I tell this story sometimes. I was building my second fire truck and building a custom bed. And the way that I build the beds is I make it where the guys that are on the back can walk all the way around the tank. And you know, some of these trucks have a rake to them, you know, where the front's down or the back's down a little bit. So you put a level on it and the level could be just right where it needs to be, and it could be right on the bubble. But you stand back and look at it, it looks goofy. So I was building this truck, second one I ever done, and I'm out in the dirt, didn't have a shop like I do now, and I remember welding it all up. I thought, man, it's perfect, it's level, it's gonna be great. And I stepped back and I was gonna admire my work. Wrong. Step back and look at it, and it looked like Ned in the first grade reader had welded it up, all different angles. I got back up there, I'm like, there's no way. I got a different level, put it on there. Nope, it's level, looks right, but it wasn't right. So anyways, it goes to show you on projects, even though the level's correct, you need to step back and take a look at it, take into consideration that your truck might be on a different angle, front or back, or even the surface you're working on is not level. So here's what I did. You can kind of see right now, this box, you know, is made for the toolbox. That's where it's going to sit. And I kind of have a little mock-up here of the way that I think that I want the tube. I mean, obviously I'm probably going to put some type of storage right here on top of this toolbox and maybe build like a little basket that I can put stuff. So I'm just trying to decide what level I need to put this at and where it needs to be. It's going to be about 5 foot long, which is basically a foot past the back of the wheel. I think that'll be plenty of space. You just got to kind of piece this stuff together, start at the headache rack, which is what I did, and make it look right, make it look, you know, like it's supposed to. In my head, I kind of have an idea, but I'm just mocking everything up. I kind of want these pieces to be level with my shock hoops. I think that'll be aesthetically pleasing, as they say. I think it's going to look like it's supposed to, is the way I put it, but it's coming together pretty good. I kind of matched the profile on the side of the cab itself and then ended up cutting it off, and I'm going to put some diamond plate on the sides, and to strengthen that up I'll put some gusset plates from here up to that, and then at some point I'll probably have to tie this down to my long pieces going back to the bed and tie all the suspension together. And the more you tie this stuff together, the more strong it's going to be and the less likely it is to break. So the more you can brace this up, the better it's going to be. Just simple. There ain't much to that. Just keep welding, put stuff on. But like I told you guys, I'm trying not to make it 4 million pounds, but make it strong at the same time. So I got a lot done today. The headache rack completely done, level. I like the way it is. I matched my angle, used my angle finder up and down. I still got a little bit of stuff to do, but overall pretty pleased with it. So that's what I got finished up today. I wish I had my toolboxes in. Hopefully Amazon gets those, I don't know, maybe Wednesday or Thursday this week. Maybe I can stick them on there, and it'll make a lot more sense when they're sitting there instead of this wooden box that I made. That obviously you can tell I'm not a carpenter, but it's serving the purpose. Maybe when I get done with that, I'll have the guys put some 2x4s in it, maybe make it a step stool. I don't know, it might be too big for a step stool. Might have to be some type of storage. I don't want to make it go to waste. So anyways, everything's good. I ended up, I was talking about not wasting material. I ended up using one full 20-foot stick for the headache rack, and then one half of a stick, 10 foot, and then I actually have about 6 or 8 inches left over. So doing pretty good on not wasting, which is my goal, is not to waste this stuff, because this material has gotten higher and higher as I've kept building these trucks and these beds. So appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Today has been a lot of work, not a lot of talking, but I feel like the content that I'm putting out there, welding wise, material wise, and where we're headed with this is getting better and better and starting to make sense. I hope it is anyways. If you can, like my videos, comment on it, subscribe, please. Check that button. It'd be helpful to me, and I'm just trying to get it out there that you know, I'm new and I'm starting at this channel, and I feel like it's going in the right direction. If you got some suggestions, just hit me up. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Hey guys, back in the shop today. It's Saturday. I'm going to be working on doing some Part of the back of the bed, I haven't really completely committed and to cut off the frame rails yet on the truck, but I'm getting closer. I got these mounted. These are the 5-foot bars. I kind of got them kind of tacked in there. You can see I also got my buyer's boxes that finally showed up, and I got my supports built for those underneath. So I'm liking where the placement is of those. It's going pretty good. I got a couple other things I want to show you, but mainly today that's what I'm going to try to do is work on somewhat doing this back part of the flatbed slash tube bed. And I'm using 2-inch 2x2 tubing that I got the other day at OPS up in Dewey, and I feel like it's going to be more my style. I really like, you know, the round tubing. It's nice and all, don't get me wrong, but I like square tubing, and it's my truck, so that's the way we're going to do it. So that's what we're going to work on today. Hope you guys like it, and we'll see where we get. Thanks a lot. Alright guys, I'm back at it. So kind of at a crossroads here. You can see I kind of got 2 of my braces put in, and I'm dropping stuff already, so it's going great. But anyways, I'm at the point to where I kind of at a crossroads, because I gotta take into consideration that I am going to have a 40-inch spare in the back of this truck, and if I happen to make it on Ultimate Adventure, I kind of need all the space I can get. So I'm contemplating on whether to set these uprights in the back at the very back where the bumper is going to be, or to leave them open and widen them out on the actual bottom part of the bumper that I'm going to put across. But I think right now I just have a gut feeling that I just need to cut the frame off the back, step back with the bumper that I'm going to cut, put it on there, tack it on there, and just kind of see where it leads me. I think with projects like this, you just kind of have to build them little by little, and depending on where you're at, that might dictate your next move. So I'm kind of just flying by the seat of my pants right now, but I'm trying to keep in mind the spare and the other, like cooler and tools, the other stuff that I'm going to be able to take with me, and how I'm going to package it all. So just trying to do the best for the truck and for me and my situation. So I think I'm just going to cut this off with the torch, and I'm going to get the bumper, cut it, and I'll probably get an idea of where it's going to be. I kind of roughly have an idea what I want, but I just want to check it out. So here we go. And if you guys are wondering, since YouTube doesn't like me playing music in the background, I'm listening to Whitey Morgan and the 78s. Pretty good setup. My kind of music. I listen to it all though, but this is pretty good. Can't tell you how long I've been waiting to do that. You know, it's funny in life, you know, you think about, I remember when I was starting to learn how to use a torch, and so, I guess I can talk about it. So on a cutting torch, you got acetylene and oxygen. Some people use propane, which is, it still works for cutting, but it's not near as hot. I think acetylene just burns hotter. But anyways, on a torch, you got oxygen, which this one stays open all the time. And you got your acetylene on this side, and that's what you use to turn the gas on. And this is the mixing chamber where it mixes acetylene and oxygen, which comes out here and it's hot. So you'll see when people start it, it'll have kind of a black flame to it because it's just gas by itself. But when you add the oxygen to it, that's what causes it to get real volatile, and it makes it super hot. And that's what cuts, you know, the steel. Then you have also air. So when you push this, this blows out the middle of the tip of the cutting torch itself. There's a little hole. It's actually bigger than the gas holes. But what that does is it blows air through the heated area where you're trying to cut, and that's what actually blows out the molten steel. So this is a Victor torch. They've been around a long time. But when I was learning how to use a torch, my uncle, I can hear him telling me the whole time, you know, you kind of get in a hurry with the torch, and you're trying to heat especially thicker metal up, and it's not getting hot enough fast enough, and you end up hitting this, and it makes that sound, the hissing sound. And I remember my uncle telling me, come on boy, get off that air. You're wasting that air. Every time I'd hit it, trying to get in a hurry because I'd be trying to cut it. So every time I hit this and it doesn't cut, I think about my uncle's voice in the background telling me, get your hand off that air, boy. You don't got it hot enough. But now I'm paying for it, so I guess I can hold it as long as I want to. I've been wanting to cut the back of this thing off for a while. It's kind of cool. Like once you see it with the back cut off, it's kind of like, wow, here we are. Like I finally got it. Like I've been holding off this whole time, trying to, you know, get this thing right. And it just goes to show you, like, you stand back here and you look, it's just, the truck itself is just super short. I mean, look at it now. I mean, you can see there's like, I mean, there's nothing to it. So I'm pretty stoked to cut that off. Looks pretty good. So now I need to take a measurement and cut my bumper, and I'll probably just clean this up right now instead of waiting. Just go ahead and clean this thing up with my flat disc, because I know I'm going to have to weld to it anyways. Turn my music back on, huh?